Thanks everyone for tuning in. Another episode of Seriously Butthurt Sports. We're breaking down the results of the championship series for the MLB playoffs, and we're going to break down the World Series. Thanks for tuning in. All right, I got another episode here, Seriously Butthurt Sports. Myself, Nick Litch, and I got Ralph Lindsay. What's going on, Ralph?
Hello, Nick. How you been?
Not bad, not bad. I'm kind of over the Yankees losing and moving on to bigger and better things. Congrats to your Broncos on a nice win this weekend.
All field goals, but we'll take it.
Yeah, it knocked me out of my suicide pool this weekend, so I am not thrilled about that. I wanted to take the Dolphins, and I should have listened to my instincts. So, but anyway, we're here to talk about baseball. So, what do you think, Ralph? How did everything pan out for you? Let's break down the ALCS first.
Well, the ALCS was a little more exciting than I would have hoped it to be.
Mm-hmm.
The Astros making a run at becoming the second team in MLB history to come back from a 3-0 deficit in a series and win it. Thank God it didn't happen. The Astros are not in the World Series. So all is good in that respect. But
Yep.
yeah, it was a hard-fought series. And a little bit telling. I mean, Tampa Bay inexperience showed through those games. I think a couple of games, especially game 6, the downside to being so analytical, I think, played out with the Tampa Bay Rays, because game 6, I believe they should have won. However, I believe because they went with a more of an analytical approach when they took Blake Snell out of the game when they did, versus maybe, letting him continue to go, because yes, he was laboring. Yes, he was struggling, but he had done that in every start pretty much so far this postseason, but he was still shutting them down. So it's one of those things where I think you should have let him go a little longer.
Yeah.
Let him keep doing what he's doing. Put the analytics aside for a second and just let him go. But they got the job done. Almost gave it up again in game 7. I was watching that game and I was having a heart attack those last 3 innings, especially after Houston scored those 2 runs. So luckily, though, Rays were able to suppress it and go on to the World Series.
It was definitely, I guess, as a Yankee fan, you would call it a lose-lose. As a Yankee fan and a baseball fan, right? Because as a baseball fan, you definitely want to see the Astros lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as a Yankee fan, you want to see the Rays lose. So, but of the two, I think baseball fan takes precedent, and I wanted to see the Astros lose. I could save the Rays losing in the World Series if they got there, but they are there, and they will face the Dodgers. So
Yes.
I thought the ALCS was a very good series. I mean, it went 7. I said I think I said it was going to go 6. I just think, again, like you said, the inexperiencedness of the Tampa Bay Rays kind of made it go 7. But I do think that the Rays are the better team of the two. So I do think that is the desired outcome from what the analytics sheets say and the stats sheets say, especially for the 60-game season.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Then we move over to the NLCS, where goes to game 7 again.
Yep.
Mookie Betts 2 games in a row saved it for the Dodgers. I would say he earned his paycheck in those 2 games.
Yeah, no, Mookie's defense has kept the Dodgers in this series. I mean, and I guess it's interesting because then where on the ALCS you have the Rays inexperience coming through, over on the NLCS you had the Dodgers experience coming through. And that's something that I definitely believe helped them go from 3-1 down bring it to game 7 and finishing off the Braves in that game 7. I also believe that game 3 thrashing that they gave to Atlanta, where they scored 11 runs in the first, wound up scoring 15, I believe it was in the game total. That also, I believe, was a catalyst for the Dodgers. Even though they went on to lose game 4, I do believe that game 3, where they just absolutely put a trouncing on them, was a catalyst game for them to continue to hit. And I mean, you have Mookie Betts. Here's a good thing about the Dodgers, especially in game 7. You had Mookie Betts, who made the defensive play, but then you had their other star in Cody Bellinger, who was the one to hit the go-ahead home run in game 7. So you have both of your star players coming in clutch, doing what they need to do to help you win the game.
What do you think about Clayton Kershaw's performance in this CS?
Clayton Kershaw is back, looks closer to his normal postseason self.
Yep.
Where he's just, for whatever reason, it's just he doesn't have that dominance that he always shows in the regular season, or that he showed in the front end of this postseason. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the fact that they're playing consecutive games, even though for a pitcher, your starting pitcher, your routine shouldn't be any different. No. So I don't see why that would come into play, really. So I don't know what
he was on. He had to have been on 5 days rest at least, right?
Yeah, I mean, so at a minimum. Especially because he was scratched from game 2.
Right.
He was supposed to start game 2, but they scratched him, so he should have been on minimum 5 days rest anyway, no matter what.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if it's a mental thing. With him, it's always, I don't know what it's been, but postseason baseball has some kryptonite for him, and I don't know what it is.
It's really unfortunate because he is a future Hall of Famer, regardless of his postseason performances. I just think, and I said it last time, I just think it was a huge miss by the MLB to have consecutive games. I just think that they did something that just ruined it for the postseason to rush and to get it done. I don't understand what the big hurry was. I understand that there's no travel days. But I don't really see how playing consecutive games really benefits anybody. I think you could have done two games, a break, then your normal 3, and then a break, and then a day break. I don't see any harm in that. I mean, we're at October 19th, and the World Series starts tomorrow.
Yeah. Which here, I'll be personally, I believe this is when the World Series should be around every year. I don't like the World Series being so late in October and almost November. I never have, mainly because I believe when you get into October, November, when you have the teams like the Yankees or Minnesota, when you have these teams that are northern and East Coast, where it's going to get cold, I don't believe that's true baseball. I don't think baseball should be played that late into the fall and almost into the winter. I have always been a proponent of, actually, if you're not going to change the playoff format to where the World Series will start October, shortening the regular season so then you can start the postseason a little earlier so that the World Series will still be in October. I mean, I'm honestly not that against the fact that they've had back games every single day, especially being at a neutral site. I'm not totally against that. The fact that they didn't let teams know, that's where my grievance is with the MLB. If they would have given teams more time, like if they would have let teams know a lot sooner and given teams the ability to structure their roster,
right?
Or even saying, hey, or even doing this, letting them know when they did, but then saying, but we're also going to expand your playoff roster size to give you that flexibility. So for me, it's not the fact that it's been consecutive games. It's just the fact that teams didn't know enough in advance to really put their roster together, and they didn't have that flexibility. So.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but I'm going to push back on something that you said about the cold weather and things like that. I mean, baseball starts a a week. The regular season starts about a week after the spring equinox, right? So, I
Mhm.
mean, in New York City, a couple of years ago, of course, the year that I had Yankee season tickets, opening day, it snowed. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just a fact of the geographical location. I mean, I personally don't see an issue of it going so late. I do. It has its pros and cons, right?
Mhm.
As a fan, I enjoy it. I think as a team and kind of re-energizing and teams that go deep into the postseason, yeah, they have that. They're starting back out in the spring in February, and then spring ball, and then opening day. I think those teams are a little bit of a disadvantage because they've been playing for an extra month.
Mhm.
Um, you know, you're gonna have a whole discussion about that, but we're here to talk about the Fall Classic that occurs every year, regardless of COVID or not, a global pandemic or not. Fall baseball is here to stay. Um, that's saying something to the pundits that said, "Nah, end the season." I think that we
Mhm.
should end the NFL season. That's a different debate. Um, but I just got a notification that Kershaw is set to start World Series Game 1. So that should be interesting. Not really shocking. So we have the Dodgers facing off against the Tampa Bay Rays, who have been this is their first World Series appearance since early
I
2000s. Had to have been. So good for them. Tampa Bay is on a roll. One city, one championship already. But my playoff prediction, or my final prediction, is that the Los Angeles Dodgers come out in 5 and they win. I think the inexperience and the analytical nature of the Tampa Bay Rays cannot listen. I think Dave Robinson is a great manager. I think he's just had tough breaks in the World Series to where his team played, well up into the World Series, and then they just couldn't get things moving. I
well,
think
plus a Astros team
then
that
they
cheated their way to a World Series
uh,
win.
and yeah, against Boston too.
Yeah.
So I think this is their year. I think they finally take it. I think they finally win. They are victorious. Oh well, you have the Lakers too, who won a championship. So
Mhm.
um, ironic that it's those two cities that are facing off each other. Anyway, what do you think, Ralph?
Yeah, so 2008 was when Tampa Bay has
Okay, so late
their
2000s.
one and only World Series appearance. So this is their second World Series appearance, still looking to get the first of the franchise. The Dodgers are looking to win their first World Series since 1988. And I believe it's going to be Dodgers in 6. I do think the Rays will find a way to take 2 games, possibly even this game 1. You have Glass now versus Kershaw. Again, Kershaw, it's up in the air which one we're going to see. We might see vintage Kershaw. We might see normal postseason Kershaw. Glass now has been pitching really well. He throws very hard, and his breaking ball is off the charts when you compare it to his fastball. So I would not be surprised to see the Rays take game 1 and then ink out a second win, maybe game 3 or game 4. So I
Do
do
you
believe the Dodgers are going to take it in 6.
do you think that do you think the Dodgers are going to come out with the same approach that the Yankees did and start swinging against Glass now, being that he throws so hard that you think they could steal a couple off of him that way?
Yes, I do believe they're going to take that approach, which doesn't surprise me. It also won't surprise me if they are able to get to Glass now, because look, Glass now throws hard and all, but he still has a 4.66 ERA right now in
Hmm.
the postseason. So it's not like he hasn't given up runs. He has given up runs. So it is possible to score off of him. And I believe that's a possibility. My question more so in game 1 lies with which Kershaw are we going to see?
Yeah, I
Because
think I think
this,
that's pivotal. I
yeah,
think that's pivotal to the entire series. If he shuts them down and that Dodger lineup can get to Glass now, I think it's a 2-run game maybe in favor of the Dodgers.
Mhm.
I think if it's the the regular postseason Kershaw, I think you could see Tampa Bay up by 5 within the first couple innings.
Yeah. So that's going to be what I'm watching in this game one. What does Kershaw look like early on in the game? And if he is his vintage shutdown self, like he was in his first couple starts of this postseason, then I might even say that Dodgers might sweep this World Series if because what'll happen is one, it'll just be even more of a boost for the Dodgers themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it will just continue them to go on this streak that they've had. Because after they get past Glasnow, yes, you have Charlie Morton, who's been very good. He started that game 7 to help the Rays. Yes, you have Blake Snell, but Blake Snell in every start so far this postseason has had a hard time. His numbers won't show it because his numbers are actually pretty good, but he is labored. Every start he's had, he has looked stressed out. He has not found a groove at once, and I don't see that changing, especially in a World Series when you know that this is your chance to bring a championship home to your franchise. And against a team like the Dodgers and their experience in the World Series, their hitting ability, they're a team that will jump all over Blake Snell if they have the chance, and I fully expect them to. So depending on Kershaw and what happens, I could see this being a sweep by the Dodgers or even going 6 games just based on one game.
I don't see a sweep, and I'll tell you why. I think Tampa Bay has got a lot of momentum at their back, right? I think they have the wind at their back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that has a lot going for them, but I think that lineup for LA is just so dirty.
Yeah.
I just think they could just eat anybody up.
Yeah, no, and well, because it's interesting because I mean, when you look at the postseason as a whole, the Rays are only batting 209. The Dodgers are batting 256.
Okay.
So it's not like the Rays are hitting teams under the bus here and winning these games by hitting. Their pitching has been really good. Their defense has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
This postseason. Their defense has kept them in a lot of games.
We might see a lot of 1 or 2 run games.
It's very possible. This could be a very, very low scoring World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Again, unless the Dodgers lineup does what they did in game 3 against the Braves.
Yeah.
And just absolutely mashes the ball at every turn.
Yeah. I mean, put aside what happened to the Braves, I do think that they're up and coming team, and I think they're gonna be hanging around in the postseason a lot in the next couple of years.
The Braves are a young, talented team. They're gonna be postseason contenders for many years to come. They got a little taste this year. They went deep into the postseason, and they got Acuna, they got Albies, their pitching staff in Fried, and other starters are young. Their team is a young team.
Yeah.
And them getting the taste of the postseason that they did this year is just going to help them even more from 2 standpoints. One, it's going to make them hungrier to come back and make it again and go further.
Maybe we were waiting for, as Yankee fans, maybe we were waiting for the Yankees Dodgers World Series. Maybe we had our eyes set on the wrong prize. Maybe it's just a rematch of the 90s and you have the Braves and the Yankees in the World Series again.
I mean, the Dodgers aren't going to go anywhere either, though. They're going to still be contenders.
I agree.
It could become the Braves-Dodgers matchup for the next couple years at least. Mm-hmm. Could be one we see very often.
But let's be fair, though, because I think the Dodgers aren't going to be the only ones hanging around anymore in the West. No. I think you have the Padres, who are really going to be strong in the West.
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're up and coming. I think they were ahead of a schedule a little bit, but I think they are going to play and be competitive in the next several years in that in the West for the NL.
And that is, I completely agree, because the Padres like the Braves. They're a young team, and you got the core in that team now with Machado, with Tatis Jr., who has become the face of your franchise in pretty much a season. Again, young. I mean, they have Hosmer, who he's obviously a veteran. How much longer he'll be in the league or be with them is to be seen, but they still have that core right now in Machado, Hosmer, Tatis Jr. They showed what they can do this year. They're just going to get better. Again, another team that got a taste of the postseason and is going to want to be there year after year after year if they can. So the West is going to be hard fought. The Dodgers aren't going to just stroll through the West anymore. It's not going to be an easy stroll anymore.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I think you still have the West Coast version of the Orioles in the Giants.
Yeah.
So, and the Diamondbacks too. I think it's a race between those two teams. Let's just put it that way, which is exciting baseball. Who wants to know next season that the Dodgers are going to be back on top again? So I'm very excited for that personally. So we recapped the championship series. We gave our predictions on the World Series. What else is on your mind? We got a little bit of time, Ralph. We haven't talked about much on here. Well, actually, an NHL episode will be dropping soon. I think we're going to drop the baseball, and then as long as Ralph agrees that there's no really time-sensitive things, Ralph and Zach went over the finals of the NHL and the draft. So I think we're going to let baseball drop, let that air, and then come back and drop NHL.
Yeah, we also talked a little bit about a lot of the free agency moves that have been made already in the NHL.
And Lundqvist getting bought out.
Yep. And also signing with the Capitals as well. So we go into detail about all that and what that looks like.
That boggles my mind, but
Lundqvist, we talk about this a little bit on the episode, but Lundqvist said that's just Washington checked all his boxes off. Just to put it the way he put it. They checked all the boxes off. He's more concerned about winning right now than anything else. He wants to win at least one Stanley Cup.
He can never win it. He will never win one. He's one of those guys who's we're gonna do a Hall of Fame show, and we're gonna say, well, maybe not us, maybe our children one day, and look back and say, how come Lundqvist never got in? Yeah. I think Lundqvist will get in the Hall of Fame. I don't.
No. Lundqvist is going to get into the Hall of Fame.
I think
hockey's not a sport where championships keep you out per se. Hockey's not like football where championships have that huge effect on your Hall of Fame. Because the NHL knows, anyone who follows it knows, the Stanley Cup is one of the hardest championships to win.
Yeah.
And it really depends on the team you have. So Lundqvist, I don't see why he will not be a Hall of Famer.
Well, I mean, I agree. I think for me, if I were ever a writer, I think, or anything like that, I think I weigh championships as, pretty heavy. You talk about Eli Manning. I'm a Giants fan, so I'm not going to hide it, but I think he gets in. I think it's a tough sell for him with his record and his interceptions and all that. But he has 2 Super Bowl MVPs. So I could see your point, in that sense that he led 2 teams. So that's pretty, that's pretty noteworthy. But anyway.
And it's funny because I'm on the opposite spectrum. I don't weigh championships in any sport. Unless it's an individual sport, obviously. But when it comes to team sports,
that's fair.
I don't weigh championships as heavily really as anybody else, because you don't win a championship as a solo person in a team sport. From football to baseball, even basketball, hockey, it takes a team to win those championships. It's hard to win championships, especially consistently as an individual in a team sport. Basketball is the only one.
I was just gonna say basketball. I can
Basketball is the
argue with
only
you
one
on
that you
that.
can argue that one person, as we know, Michael Jordan,
I was just gonna.
led
There's
those
literally
Bulls
only
teams.
one person.
But even Michael Jordan with those Bulls teams, Scottie Pippen, Dennis
Mhm.
Rodman played huge roles. So there might be some debate on whether or not Jordan would have 6 rings if he wasn't with Scottie and Rodman.
And even Steve Kerr too. I mean,
Yeah.
he
So
played buzzer beater kind of
yeah.
type
So
of
even
thing, but still.
basketball, you might be able to argue that an individual can make a huge difference. However, even in that scenario, you can look at teams like the Bulls, for instance, and you can look at the teams and say, well, if he did not have these guys, would they still have won that year? So basketball, again, might be the only one you can make an argument where one guy, the championship, should really come into play. However, being a team sport, I still personally I don't rank when it comes to especially Hall of Fame. No, when you're talking about Hall of Fame, I don't necessarily put championship. I don't put championships at the same level as everyone else normally does.
Well, that final season though, the Bulls, they didn't have Scottie Pippen for what, half the season? Maybe they got him back in December, January, maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe a couple months.
Yeah.
But and they almost they came back from the ash heap, right? Basically in that season. I think they were down and out.
Yeah, 96,
Yeah. So well, that's interesting talk. We're gonna have we're gonna have one more baseball episode, maybe take a little hiatus and
wait till off-season moves start. We'll recap the World Series, maybe talk a little bit about what we think the Yankees should do the off-season, and then wait for the off-season to happen.
Should we have a eulogy?
No, let's not go that far. Let's not go that far.
Yeah, I mean, as a Yankee fan, I'm optimistic. I mean, it hurt again. It didn't hurt as bad because I kind of saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
During the season, I just prepared myself to realize that this team wasn't going to be the one that's going to bring us to the promised land. So, well, actually, we do have some news that Aaron Boone is going to be the manager next year. So, to my dissatisfaction, he will still be the manager, and it seems like Brian Cashman will still be the general manager. So, good thing my last name isn't Steinbrenner.
I'm not surprised at either of those. I'm really not. I was not expecting to see Cashman or Boone to be booted after this season.
Next season?
Depends on what happens. It all depends on what happens in the season, obviously. But this season, especially shortened season, everything going on, just not using it as an excuse for the way they played during the season, because they did fall off the face of the earth for those few weeks.
5-15.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not using the pandemic or everything that's going on to the shortened season as an excuse, but in my mind, it would always look to fire a coach and a GM and go in a different direction after this type of year. Just to me, wouldn't have seemed right. Plus, Boone even came out and said it himself. This team is right on the cusp. They're really close.
That just doesn't do it for me.
No, I'm not. Look, I'm saying,
tired of hearing that.
Yeah, and
it's
agree.
Just a tired excuse.
But you also, another thing you have to take into account here, especially when it comes to a head coach, I also believe the team themselves, all the guys really like Boone as their manager. Okay. I think Boone has a good rapport among the players themselves, and that gets along really well with them. So especially with a young team that they are, the experience they all have together, to take Boone out right now, I believe would do more harm to the organization than giving him at least one more year to sort of prove that he can get to that World Series.
I mean, take Boone out to get Buck Showalter. Not a bad compromise.
Again, it's not a bad compromise. It's just Showalter, again, great manager, but there is still that question of, can Showalter win over the players? It's that, and that's one of those things that people don't necessarily take into account when they think managers, they don't, at least, well, I should say people as in fan bases and just spectators like us just watching, they don't take into account
Oh yeah,
the
no, I get you. It's fair.
managerial relationship with their players.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that you also have to sort of put in the equation when you're looking to part ways and move different directions. And when you have a team that's won like they have, like the Yankees have over the last few years, yes, they haven't gotten to the World Series. I understand that, but it's not like the regular seasons have been these abysmal regular seasons.
Right, 100-win seasons, yeah.
Yeah, so you got to take that. That's something you got to take into account when thinking managerial moves.
That's fair, and that's why you're on this team, because you have that little inside. You add that color, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
One person that I think everybody's screaming to get fired in the New York area is Adam Gase.
Oh, by far. They just got shut out by the Miami Dolphins this past weekend. They're what, 0-6 now?
I believe so, yeah.
So
you didn't congratulate me because my team finally won a game.
Congratulations to the New York Giants. You beat the Washington football team.
Yeah.
Now your record is tied with the Washington football team.
Almost didn't beat them.
What was it, 20-19?
Yeah, it was. So they forced a fumble and ran it in for a touchdown, which I blame that. And they had about, I think it was like maybe 3 minutes, 20 seconds. So there was a significant amount of time on, and Washington still had 3 timeouts. I personally wouldn't have run it in. I would have gotten it within field goal range, which I think they were already, and tried to force Washington at least to burn their timeouts. You have the trade-off though. You don't score a touchdown. Now they still need a touchdown, but they win it if they get a touchdown. It could go either way. And then they score a touchdown anyway. And then Riverboat Ron goes for 2 and fails, and the Giants win in dramatic fashion at the buzzer.
Well, look, that's one of those things where I would say 99% of the players in that situation are going to take the ball to the end zone.
Probably.
The amount of discipline and wherewithal you have to have in that situation to know, wait, they have 3 timeouts. There's only X amount of time on the clock. I don't want to run this ball in. That takes a lot in the heat of the moment. So
especially
let's not blame them too much.
No, I know.
But I understand where the logic lies in what you're saying.
Right. Like that play, you had Brandon Jacobs take a dump on the goal line. So and still get knocked into the goal line anyway. And the NFC Championship, I think so. Several years ago. So I mean, back to, not to really make this a football show, but maybe we should do a football show next week. I think we should do that.
I'm down for it.
I think we should get the gang together and see if we could put something together.
I mean, we got one more. The World Series is going to be over within a week or so.
Yeah, so we could do a football show next week, our regular schedule, and then cool. Glad we're talking about this live. Great. So back to Adam Gase. I think terrible. He's a general manager too, I believe, of the Jets. I just think.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he has some sort of, he has pull. Or no. I'm sorry. The org structure, the GM and the head coach in the New York Jets are on the same footing, and they both report up into ownership.
Gotcha.
So he has wherewithal about who stays on the team, which Le'Veon Bell is now on the Kansas City Chiefs, which now makes them the clear favorites I mean, they were favorites probably before Le'Veon Bell, but.
Well, they also, what was it, last week or the week before, the Las Vegas Raiders handed them a thrashing. The Raiders put up 40 points against them and won. So I don't know.
They probably have the most points scored against them in the entire league, I would think, at this point.
Who are the Chiefs?
Oh, you're talking about the
Raiders put up 40 against the Chiefs.
I know.
And beat the Chiefs.
I know.
I don't know if that was a
fluke
game or if the Raiders exposed something in that Chiefs defense.
I don't know. That Steve Spagnuolo is just such a good coordinator. I think that defense is so good. I told producer Frank to take the 11.5, and didn't work out so well for him. Anyway, that's our show. That's what we got. So I guess football's coming. NHL recaps coming. We'll sprinkle in a little quick recap of the MLB sometime when that's over. So final thoughts, Ralph.
Coming to another close, and then that football episode will also, because I think it's time we can start talking also about the Jets possibly looking into that first round draft, that number 1 draft pick for next year, with Trevor Lawrence being probably the number 1 QB looking to come out. So we can get into that on the NFL show.
Man, that guy must be on watch, because he's probably watching the league and he's just saying shit.
He's only a junior. He can play another year. He has 1 more year.
Yeah,
he has
true.
1 more year. So
about that.
if he's not happy with the team that gets the number 1 pick in the NFL, he could always say, "Look, I'm gonna play my senior year." So he's got options, but again, we'll save that for the NFL show. I'm looking forward to this World Series. I think it's going to be a good one, even if it only goes 5-6 games. But both teams deserve to be there. Clearly, the 2 best teams in each respective league this year, even with the shortened season. I do believe, like we said, Dodgers, I think, get their World Series win, finally bringing the championship back to LA for their baseball team, being the Lakers just won their championship in basketball.
I would love to see the Dodgers come and win it. They are definitely due. If anybody's due, that would be the team, other than my Yankees. But we'll let that go. I don't want to keep harping on that because I'll get criticism. But yeah, I agree. Ralph, I had fun recapping the postseason with you. Baseball seems to be a good flow. So I appreciate you being along for the ride. I had a great time, even though we didn't get the desired outcome, but that's okay. That's sports, right? There's always next year.
Oh, one more thing for all you small market teams. After this year, I don't want to hear any more about this small market BS and not being able to make the World Series because you're a small market team. Okay. Let's just stop with that. Okay. You can get to the World Series, just get a good farm system and learn how to build your players into your system. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
no more of that.
I mean, their fan base in Tampa is just non-existent. I mean, they probably have a showing of like 10,000 fans. When,
they have a better fan base than most people realize. Majority of the reason why their stadium, I believe, is as empty as it normally is location of the stadium being in, I believe it's St. Petersburg versus more of the Tampa area.
Okay.
So, because I know many Tampa Bay fans, and their fan base is a lot more diehard and a lot better than people think. And
I didn't think so.
No,
I thought that area was just a mix of like Mets fans, Yankee fans, kind of a melting pot. That's why they really didn't get a big draw.
That's a little bit of it too, but their fan base is bigger than most people realize. It's just, again, positioning of the stadium, location of the stadium versus.
Well, if they win the World Series, hopefully they'll get a new ballpark.
To be determined. And
I've never been there. Have you?
I've never been to Tropicana. I've never been to the actual stadium.
Doesn't look like a great place, but
nah, it's not the best. I've heard people talk about it. It's not the greatest, but again, you're a diehard Rays fan. You make the trip out there eventually to get to a game. I do know that Tampa Bay has always been one of those teams that have always been on relocation watch, you could say. But
well, yeah, they were supposed to go to Montreal or something like that, right? Yep. There was talk about that.
Revive the Expos.
The Expos, yeah. Which that would be horrible if you have such a fan base that you're describing.
Yeah, well, especially getting to the World Series this year, probably put that on hold for the next few years.
I'm sure it did.
So
you'd have a lot of angry fans. But anyway, well, thanks for tuning in, Ralph. Thanks as always. Had fun. This is another episode of Seriously But Hurt Sports. Thanks, everyone.